Friday show. Welcome on into the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by FanSided's MLB Insider Robert Murray. And we got a fun show that is going to be dominated by the biggest name on the trade market so far. Or is he on the market, or are we just having conversations? The all-world closer of the Oakland A's officially found his way into a Ken Rosenthal piece last night. And I guess that's more than enough to talk about his potential fit, as well as the current top needs for every division leader at this moment in time. Because according to the Padres and Marlins, we already have to be talking about the trade deadline. Also, Paul Skenes, Robert Gasser, and questions from all of y'all answered by FanSided's MLB Insider Robert Murray. Robert, welcome on into the show. It's a loose one. You're in Wisconsin. It's a Friday. Not to dox you, but it's pretty obvious based on the helmet behind you. How are you doing, dude?
Dude, I'm doing great. As you said, I am in Wisconsin, currently in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin, aka the place where the podcast actually started with Mark Carmen, and now in the lovely hands of Adam Weinrib. We appreciate you for doing that. But dude, we got stuff to talk about today. Paul Skenes is about to be a big leaguer, which is extremely exciting. But Adam Weinrib, how are you doing, good sir?
I am doing good. Man, Sheboygan, Adam Weinrib is doing just fine. Paul Skenes, yeah, it's happening. I'm glad we got this show out before the debut actually occurred, so we could talk about the ramifications, how long he's gonna go. Before we get started, what's up, baseball fans? DraftKings is offering a fantastic sign-up bonus for all new users. New customers can place a $5 first bet on any sport to instantly claim $150 in bonus bets when you sign up with our code Baseball Insider. You'll also receive one single game parlay reward every day. And the best part is you'll get both rewards even if your first bet loses. Using our code Baseball Insider not only gets you these bonuses, but it also directly supports our podcast. You've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure to use the code Baseball Insider to maximize your first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus, physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check that episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. And shout out to everyone who has joined us today on the stream, 3:30, typically Monday, Thursday, but thanks for joining us on a Friday. Hot show on a Friday. Shout out to our Discord friends. See some of them in the comments. Always do join the Discord. We got multiple levels if you're interested in being the most informed fan and asking Robert questions between shows. And I would say the question that we've gotten the most in the last 24 hours is about Mason Miller. No kidding. So we're going to go team by team, division leader by division leader, and talk about their earliest, biggest, fast developing trade deadline need. But I tell you what, someone who fits the bill for a bunch of teams, we might as well just knock it off right away, is Miller, who is available at a high price per Ken Rosenthal last night. Now, how high is that price? A price like Jackson Merrill, a price like Kobe Mayo and Enrique Bradfield Jr. He floated those two packages for the Pods and the O's. So before we really get too far into it, is this hey, we can't not listen because we're the A's and we have the hottest closer commodity in baseball? Or how active is, I don't know if you've ever done an active listening course. How active is the listening?
I mean, they are listening. I mean, there's teams that are interested for sure. And based on my conversations with executives over the last, I would say 24 hours, I would say that asking price is really, really, really high. And astronomically high is one phrase that was heard. Just the asking price is really high. And that's what makes it difficult, or what makes pulling off a deal right now really difficult for any team that wants to acquire Mason Miller. That being said, he is 25 years old. He is electrifying. He has made some of the best hitters in baseball look absolutely foolish. Signed through 2030, which, I mean, that's pretty good. He's also signed pretty cheap. He's really intriguing in so many different ways here. And he makes so much sense for a lot of these teams. I actually just had a story posted on FanSided not too long ago, kind of diving into some teams that make sense. I'm just going to go dive right into this thing. We're going to knock some teams off of this list.
Do it.
The team that immediately makes sense to me as one of the top fits for Mason Miller would be the Baltimore Orioles. They need a closer. Craig Kimbrell has not gotten the job done of late as the closer. He's got an ERA that's over 4 right now. And then, I mean, you look at what had ended up happening last year with the Phillies with Craig Kimbrell. I mean, you could make a very strong case that he cost them a chance at going to the World Series and getting past the Arizona Diamondbacks. with a team as like the Orioles that's invested so much into this roster and has such high hopes of advancing in the postseason or maybe even getting to the World Series, I don't know if that's a risk they can take. They have the prospect capital to pull it off and get Mason Miller from the A's. So I guess who knows there? I mean, the price is so high that could make it pretty tough, but the fact he's controllable could make the Orioles or just any of these teams kind of willing to bite that bullet. Some other teams that make sense to me, the Chicago Cubs, they need a closer for sure. They've had some struggles there, to say the least. So I think they make some sense, although I don't know if they have the prospect capital or like capable of pulling a deal like that off. The San Diego Padres, Drew, I know you're in here. I saw you comment before. To answer your question, I'm in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin.
Boy.
There we go. But there's the Padres, they don't necessarily have like a strong need for a closer, especially with Robert Suarez doing so well this year. And he's also signed for multiple years too. So it's not necessarily like the most pressing thing, but if there's one thing I learned about AJ Preller, he loves superstars. And at this point, Mason Miller is that. I mean, they got a piece in Jackson Merrill that could be really intriguing. They have not been willing to move him at all. Let me confidently say that. There's other prospects that they can move to pull it off, but he loves star players. I don't necessarily think it's likely. I would put it in a really highly unlikely category, but I would not be surprised at all if AJ Preller did check in on that. So I think those are three teams that probably are going to make those phone calls. So I don't think a deal is necessarily likely, but you never know, especially for a player as talented as Mason Miller. Yeah, all bets are off. And look who is in the podcast right now. It's Jacob Zanola, who has gotten absolutely owned by Eric Hosmer. So congratulations to you, Jacob Zanola. He owns you.
Yeah, that is a weird one. That's got to be a weird feeling, just like not mentioning Eric Hosmer at all in your tweet, and then you wake up the next morning and there's just Eric Hosmer in your mentions. That's kind of, I woke up with a cold shudder. I was like, oh, imagine if Eric Hosmer tweeted me. Glad it wasn't me.
No, me too. Yeah, but yeah, he absolutely just crushed him. So good for Hosmer.
He sure did. Well done, Hos. And Mason Miller, we will see you at the All-Star game either way. You're going to be enjoy the media scrum, my man, because right now you're putting up peak, probably the best closer numbers I've ever seen. So just hang out, sit tight for another 2 months, and I think you're maybe going to be getting a trip to Dallas as the Oakland representative. Hopefully, it's ahead of the trade deadline. If he's not,
then who is it?
It's ahead of the trade deadline, so I'm saying hopefully. Oakland A, still in Oakland A at that point in time.
Yeah, because I mean, if they don't have Mason Miller, I don't know who exactly their candidate is going to be. But I mean, I can't imagine they're going to move him before the deadline or before the All-Star game, I should say. Yeah, that would be
Paul Blackburn off to a hot start too. So if you can get somebody who can take his spot.
Although I always underestimate the A's, but they're actually like not terrible this year. Which I mean, again, props to them. I mean, that's like the 8th consecutive show I've said that, but props to them.
Yeah, we love the A's. I don't know why we love the A's, but we love the scrappy A's. I think I'm going to be this is maybe breaking news to you. I think I'm going to be covering an A's game in Oakland in about a month.
Sorry to hear that.
I can't believe it's happening. I'm going to Oakland for a separate purpose. I never thought I'd see the Coliseum in my life. And I asked, like, hey, do you think we can make some arrangements so I get there a little early and do it's A's Jays on a Friday in June? And I think look, it's gonna be weird, but I'm excited.
Yeah, you should. I mean, it's cool covering a Major League Baseball game like that. I mean, I can think of 29 better press boxes, but
isn't there a possum in that one? Like, don't you have to worry about a possum?
Honestly, like, I mean, there has been one for sure, but I mean, you just with the A's, you can't rule anything out at all. I mean, I saw some picture the other day of like random bleachers just sitting outside the ballpark, which I don't necessarily know what to make of that, but bizarre.
Well, I echo the same thing I just told Mason Miller. Hey, A's Possum, we'll see you at the All-Star game. Good luck, buddy. Big year ahead of you.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll see you in June, A's Possum. Well, let's go through the rest of the division leaders and their current biggest needs. The O's, it is obviously a closer, and we tried to warn them. We tried to tell you Craig Kimbrell's not the guy. If you're trying to take that leap. What about the Guardians? You're still holding on to that central lead despite the Twins' hard charge and their disgusting sausage. They get roped into too many we're entering mock trade season. There was a Jim Bowden that was just sort of matching up like, hey, trades I want to see. And he had Heston Kjerstad going to Cleveland for some of their relievers. And I feel like on this, look, you can examine the trade if you want, but on the surface, people still are not taking the Guardians seriously as buyers. Like their league leading bullpen is maybe one of the reasons they're in the mix here. And now all of a sudden, and former GMs and analysts are still saying, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. That they should probably sell some of those bullpen guys. I don't know. It still feels like the Guardians could go ahead and get pieces to me. So where do you see them examining things, and what's their biggest need?
Yeah, so for me, I buy them as buyers at this point. I mean, there's a lot of season left, so I mean that could change for sure. But if they're looking to buy, I think the starting rotation is immediately a spot where they can look to upgrade, because I think they can end up using some reinforcements there, especially after Shane Bieber's injury, which was really unfortunate because he looked awesome to start the year. And then I think another area of need for them could end up being a bottom of the order bat. You look at some of the guys that they have there, Bo Naylor and Tyler Freeman. They have, or are, I can't remember which one it is, but have both at some point this year been hitting under 200, which is not ideal. So I think at least some upgrades for the bottom of the order could be in store for them. But I think those are the two most pressing needs for them at this point.
And I believe in them too. And again, it is May 10th. I'm not sending the Guardians to the postseason, but they have been much more impressive and much more sustained, confidence and excellent play than I think most of us expected. What about those Texas Rangers who edged ahead of the Mariners as of this writing? I believe, unless I am slightly off there. Yeah, I mean, the Rangers are just a 1.5 up on the M's. Everybody jockeying for position there. Of course, your third place team is the Oakland A's. But what do you foresee for those Texas Rangers who've so far mashed their way into the top spot in the West? But there's a lot of big names that are currently not active.
Yeah, which makes it really tricky for them, because obviously they're without DeGrom, they're without Scherzer. I mean, there's a bunch of different guys that are on the IL right now, and they're going to be back at some point this year, but they have so many guys that are out that it just kind of makes their trade deadline needs a little bit tricky. I do think, and I saw what Evan Grant said on Foul Territory the other day about the Rangers possibly being a fit for a guy like Mason Miller. I don't know if the A's would do an in-division trade like that, but adding Mason Miller to a bullpen where David Robertson and Kirby Yates have both been really good. I think that could be really intriguing for them, and also give them a long-term solution for the ninth inning. Another one that I thought about, which could kind of be tricky just because they have so many starting pitchers coming back, but adding another arm to the rotation just for insurance in case one of the guys coming back gets hurt or suffers a setback. And plus, they ended up logging a lot of innings last year during their World Series run, so having extra arms and extra insurance for the rotation, I think, is never a bad thing. So I think those, to me, are two of the things that I'm watching the most with the Rangers here.
Let's take a tour of the National League. I think a lot of people probably would have expected us to be analyzing the Braves' chances here and how they supplement that rotation. But I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait because the Philadelphia Phillies are still in first place. And that roster looks about as strong as it has at any point in the last 3 years worth of strong play in Philadelphia. Dave Dombrowski, not scared. Sam Fold, not scared. Pretty bold leadership in Philadelphia. So if AJ Preller's in the catbird seat of, hey, don't count him out, could do something nuts, Philly, it feels like, is at least in the top 3 teams of like, hey, no matter the record, wouldn't put it past them. What are you looking at for Philadelphia?
Yeah, like you think, with the Phillies, you always look at bullpen help. That's a team that's always kind of in most recent years has needed bullpen help. But another thing that I think about too is, let's say there's a starting pitcher that is really, really good that's out there. And I don't know who that could be at this point. Jesus Luzardo stands out as a trade candidate. But we still have a few months until the deadline, so things are going to become more clear as time passes here. But they were obviously in on Yoshinobu Yamamoto in the offseason here. It makes me wonder if the right player becomes available that they could pounce, especially considering the struggles of Taijuan Walker. I think that could end up being something that they could explore, but I think bullpen is the most likely. And then if the right starting pitcher becomes available, maybe they pounce there.
Check out the White Sox. Eric Fetty could go whop the East again. That's Fetty whop. What
And
about
it also wouldn't break the payroll either. That's the thing, is he
no?
signed to an affordable multi-year deal.
I don't understand. Remember, didn't we do a whole show that was basically like, finally Eric Fetty has made a decision? Because it was like the dull days of the offseason when we were like, this
It was
has
the
been the
winter
biggest
meetings.
move. Yeah, it was like this. Not only is this the biggest move before the show, but this has been the biggest move in the last 15 days, 20 days.
Yeah.
So far this year, by the way, how much B-War do you think Eric Fetty has wrapped up in 8 starts for the moribund Chicago White Sox?
Oh God. I mean, he's been really good. So, and the White Sox have been really bad. I don't even have a guess. What is it?
1.7.
I was gonna guess. I was thinking maybe 1. I thought maybe that might be too high, but 1.7 in 8 starts.
1.7 in
Wow.
45 innings across 8 starts, and counting his previous work to this season, his 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 in Washington, he's at a career total of 1.4. So
Wow.
entered the year at minus 0.3 WAR and has now posted 1.7 in a month and 10 days.
We love a good comeback story. By the way, I remember that. So this is something I remember from the winter meetings, is just how much that got dragged out. The Fetty sweepstakes, and I mean that lasted for a good 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was like a couple hours before Fetty ended up actually making a decision. I had an agent come up to me and be like, you broke the biggest story of the winter meeting so far. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It was Joe Ross going to the Brewers on a major league deal. That was the biggest signing of the winter meetings before that. And then, I mean, Fetty signed, and I think Verdugo got traded. So, I mean, there was some movement, but man, the winter meetings were slow. That was tough, man. That was real tough.
And then Brian Cashman flew out of town, and then Juan Soto got traded. Like, everybody thought he wasn't going to get traded because the Yankees left, but then they made the deal anyway. And I don't envy anyone who was at the winter meetings trying to make heads or tails of any of that, because that was truly quicksand.
Oh, it was quicksand. I'll never like it was the winter meetings where the Soto trade happened, and I was at dinner actually with John Heyman and Mike Puma, and we were watching I was getting texts, Heyman was getting texts, and Puma was doing his thing. It was great. It was good times, but man, I'll tell you, uh, I've had some pretty epic nights with Heyman. Heyman, by the way, I mean, anyone who watches the Baseball Insiders knows how much of a John Heyman fan that I am. I was texting with him earlier today. Great dude, great reporter, great friend. So shout out to John Heyman.
King Heyman. Yeah, he's the best. And he's putting out that good early trade deadline content too. His column that was basically, players available was an inspiration. That was like, all right, it's time for the Baseball Insiders to do some trade deadline content too, I guess, because people are hungry. When you
By
go
the
to
way, one last thing about John, and then we can go. I loved his note the other day about Woo Suck Go and how scouts called him just terrible.
I actually was gonna bring that up.
I'm not kidding you. Like, that is the most John Heyman thing I've ever seen. I mean that in the greatest way possible, but I respect it. I respect it totally. Good job, John.
Good job, John. We all had a laugh. And yes, best of luck also to Wusako, who has moved on, has changed organizations after a month of professional baseball. So, American professional baseball.
Exactly.
Well, this next division leader ties nicely with something that we were going to talk about in the back half of the show. We should just do it both now, because the Milwaukee Brewers are still leading the Central. Sorry to the haters, Jake Bauers, Gary Sanchez. That is a good enough core offensively to lead the Central. They need plenty of reinforcements, and they're a team that loves to go internal. So worth noting that while we talk about their biggest potential deadline need and how much they're going to look outside the organization, they are calling up Robert Gasser to make his MLB debut. So they're already internally reinforcing that rotation. What's their biggest deadline need? How much do you think they're going to look outside the organization? And what do you expect from Gasser's debut?
Yeah, I expect Gasser to start off with him. He was somebody that the Brewers really wanted in the Josh Hader deal, and they ended up getting him. They also got Estuary Ruiz, and they got Lamet in the deal as well. There was another one, I believe, but it was those three that were part of a deal, and it was weird. I don't think this has been reported, but immediately after getting Ruiz in that trade from the Padres, the Brewers tried flipping him elsewhere in exchange for different upgrades. So I thought that was a fascinating kind of like strategy by the Brewers there. And Gasser was the one that they really wanted. He's got 5 pitches. He's got Taylor Rogers, good shot there. I knew I was forgetting somebody. but Gasser's got 5 pitches, and 3 of them are like different look fastballs. But the pitch that really stands out for him is the sweeper. And I know the Brewers are really high on him. They think he can end up making an impact immediately. He's got some swing and miss in there. I think he's going to, I don't know like his pitch limit, or if he's got a pitch limit, or if he's got whatever, but they know they're really high on what they have there. And they think he can end up being a long-term solution for them in the rotation. And I'll tell you, another guy that they're really high on is Jacob Mizorowski, who I've had multiple people tell me he's got the best pure stuff in the minors, not for guys not named Paul Skenes. So the Brewers got one there, but like in terms of, or they got 2 there, I should say. But in terms of looking potentially externally, I think that's something that is absolutely going to be a consideration for them, because as I've mentioned on this podcast before the season and even during the season, they had conversations about Mike Clevinger, and they were pretty far apart there, I believe. But they were involved in some capacity in the Clevinger sweepstakes. So the fact that they did that, in addition to some of the injuries they've had during the season here, I think that looking externally is going to end up being a possibility for the Crew.
One final division leader before we get to some fun stuff in the back end. It's weird. We actually don't talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers all that much, because they did during that slow offseason where we were on Eric Fetty watch. Will it be the Mets? Will it be the White Sox? The Golden Bachelor with Eric Fetty. The Dodgers took care of so many of their needs. They started 12-11, started a little slow. We did a podcast basically saying, hey, it's not like there's no shame in being imperfect, but they obviously had needs to address this offseason. They weren't just getting stars for the hell of it. They were filling holes with high-profile talent. They were trying to overcome some October humps, and there's still areas that could use reinforcement. Clayton Kershaw returns. That rotation looks pretty stout, even without Bobby Miller. Evan Phillips down for the count right now. They've patched together the bullpen a little bit. When I think about their primary needs, that's where I'm at. But what are you thinking with the Dodgers and the deadline?
With the Dodgers, you can go. I mean, they're loaded. I mean, they're stacked. But you can look at the bottom of the batting order. I mean, it's been better since. They've infused some youth there. Another arm in the rotation couldn't hurt for sure. Even an established arm for the ninth inning, or just even the late innings, I think could end up being a consideration. But for the most part, that is a team that is really, really, really talented, and they have so many different options where they can beat you, whether it's the rotation or whether it's the lineup. But I think there's different ways for them to improve the bottom of the order. I mean, especially if Gavin Lux and Chris Taylor continue to struggle, I think that's got to be a high priority for them. So I would say between that and an established arm for the ninth inning. So I think those make sense. But also Justin in the comments here makes a great point. You can never have enough starting pitching. Especially with what we saw from the Dodgers last year. So I think all 3 of those are on the table, and we'll see. But we've also seen that Andrew Friedman, when he identifies a need, he is quite aggressive. So can't rule anything out. But maybe their offseason spending and how much they ended up adding there could make them a little bit hesitant, just because, we're talking with so much different we're talking with so much money already on the payroll at this point. It could make it tough.
Well, if they need starting pitching, Lance Lynn could be available. And we'll do a little Cardinals grave dancing by the end of the episode, I think, because I saw one comment. But big news that we have to talk about before questions and before we wrap. Huge debut in Pittsburgh coming this weekend. Livy Dunn will be there. Not sure if she's going to get rizzed up by baby Gronk or whatever that was. But also in Pittsburgh will be her boyfriend, Paul Skenes, who is debuting against the Chicago Cubs. Took the Pirates long enough, but also not really. I'm not that bummed they waited till May 10th. May 11th will be the start. It's probably the most anticipated pitching debut since Steven Strasburg. I already saw Ben Verlander say Skenes and Jones might be the best 1-2 in baseball already. That is
before he's even debuted.
That is bold, especially since, look, the minor league starts were unbelievable, but also they were all kind of restricted to 3-4 innings. All eyes will be on this game, though, and Skenes made minor league hitters look silly in a way that Mason Miller has done so far to major league hitters. My questions are just, how careful are they going to be? How soon are the reins going to be off this guy? Are we just going to see full go right away? And are your expectations already through the roof like a lot of folks' expectations are right now?
Yeah, my expectations are through the roof. Usually I'm a guy who tries to tame expectations just because, I mean, you don't want to put too much pressure on the guy right away, but he was the number one overall pick. He was an absolute superstar at LSU, and he is totally shoved in his time in the Pirates minor league system. And you can't help but be just encouraged and optimistic about this guy potentially being an all-star, being the face of the Pirates, being, I mean, like I'm talking his potential. I'm not trying to put too much pressure on him. But I mean, he's got the potential here to be like the best pitcher in the National League. And they've been trying to be really careful not to rush him up. And they don't even know if this is the right timeline for him. We've seen Jackson Holliday, who ended up dominating in the minors for the Orioles. He struggled immediately when he got called up and he got sent right back down. So like,
yeah, he got shoved. He got shoved into a locker when he came up.
Yeah, that's actually, thank you for saving me there. Cause yeah, I mean, that was brutal. And I felt bad for the guy, but I think Skenes is going to be in a really good spot to dominate here. I think his debut is as anticipated as Strasburg's, maybe even a little bit more at this point. It's going to be freaking awesome. And I'm really curious to see how long he goes. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows besides maybe Skenes and the pitching coach there, but this is going to be an exciting debut. It's a huge day for baseball. And I truthfully cannot wait for this to happen because this has been what I've been waiting for and basically what everyone in baseball has been waiting for since he got drafted by the Pirates.
And it's very funny because Skenes does not have the motion that I think a lot of us are accustomed to. That's another similarity to Strasburg. Like there's a level of uniqueness. He's slinging these balls sort of effortlessly, 101, 102. Like we said, it doesn't look high effort, but at the same time, whenever there's sort of a deviation from the norm, and it doesn't look like a prototypical windup, I'm a little bit concerned only about long-term durability, but I'm not concerned about effectiveness on Saturday at all. I think as long as he's composed and he's himself, I don't see a way in which he isn't nasty and borderline untouchable. The Pirates have some rotation stuff to sort out. It might be time to give Roansy Contreras a fresh start elsewhere. Rotation's getting even more crowded than it was before. Bailey Falter, Quinn Priester. Questionable whether they'll be able to maintain their roles in the rotation moving forward. But Skenes, it's going to have a couple opportunities to prove he needs to be here to stay. But Saturday is a big one.
Yes, it is.
Don't get too discouraged, I guess, if he's Yoshinobu Yamamoto, one of the worst first starts ever, and all of a sudden he's been everything that's been advertised over the past, 5 or 6 after that. But he's not going to be able to duck the eyeballs. Everyone is watching Pittsburgh Pirates baseball on Saturday.
Oh, they absolutely are. I mean, it's on MLB Network, so I think it's nationally televised. I mean, there's going to be so many different eyeballs that are going to be on that game. I'm going to be one of them for sure. And I think everyone should be watching it because we're going to be watching what's most likely going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball making his major league debut. And it's going to be freaking awesome. So I can't wait. Huge day for the Pirates, who absolutely need a spark because my goodness gracious, have they fallen off. It's been tough watching that. And I feel bad for them because they invested. I mean, they tried this offseason. They made some very competitive multi-year offers to some free agents. And this was the year that they ended up really envisioning being their first year of true contention. They started off great, been a struggle since. So I'm hoping they bounce back because I think the Pirates being good will be good for baseball. And Drew, to answer your question, I'm in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin. This is where I grew up. So this is visiting my mom and dad, visiting the family, then going to Ohio for Lake Erie next week. So
there we are. Yeah. That will be a unique experience. Anytime you can get on the water in Ohio, you got to do it. The Skenes numbers, just so everyone knows, 27 in the third innings, 17 hits, 3 earned, 1 homer, 8 walks. Not so bad. 45 strikeouts. People hitting 175 against him. 0.99 ERA. So best of luck to the Chicago Cubs. And one thing we will not do on this podcast is when will the Pirates trade Paul Skenes talk? Sorry. Sorry, Justin.
No, we will not be doing that because I'll tell you if they trade him. Oh my gosh, Pirates Twitter is going to explode.
Skenes
Yeah.
for Mason Miller. Who says no?
Tweet
Probably the
that.
Pirates.
God, yeah, I would hope. I would hope the Pirates would say no to that. But I mean,
Yeah.
goodness me, how have we gone from Skenes debuting to how the Pirates are going to already trade him?
We're not. We didn't go to that. Yeah, we didn't go to that. We're not going to do it. But I got just one. I saw a comment come by midway through about the Cards, who I think just it is worth talking about because a lot of despair in Cardinals Nation at this point right now for sure. Not going to dance on graves, but a season that looks a lot like last season. Starting to see Cardinals stars show up on lists like Heyman, I believe, had Arenado as a trade deadline candidate. And we've already talked extensively about the Marlins selling and the White Sox selling and these teams that are just the dregs of baseball. And I think we maybe have to add the Cardinals to that early list of, hey, if you're going to try to pick somebody apart in an article projecting future options, might want to, they're probably more likely to sell than a team with a worse record like the Houston Astros. So, where do the Cardinals go? And would you consider them among those potential early sellers? Because there are a lot of attractive pieces there. I do not know why this team is quite so bad. And they might be even worse because they might be stripping down.
Yeah, they, to me, scream seller. And I mean, they have a lot of, as you said, they have a lot of good, intriguing trade pieces. I mean, they have some guys in the rotation. They have Ryan Helsley, who I think would also be another guy that would make sense for the Orioles or any of these other closer needy teams.
Yeah.
And then you have, I mean, Dylan Carlson, you have, I was about to say Tyler O'Neill, but he's with the Red Sox now. But you have Nolan Arenado, you have Paul Goldschmidt. He struggled for sure. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what that's going to mean for his trade value, but I'll tell you the Arenado one is truly fascinating. He's got a lot in his contract after he opted into his contract. I believe it was after or before last season is when he ended up opting into the remainder of his deal. And if you look at it, the Rockies are 9-28 right now, and the Cardinals are 15-22. So to be like the Cardinals only have 6 more wins than the Rockies right now. And Arenado wanted to get out of Colorado because he wanted a chance to win, and he has not had that at all in St. Louis. And I think if he was willing to waive his no trade clause, I think he's got one. Then I think there would be plenty of trade interest in him. So I think he's absolutely a name that bears watching. The Cardinals potentially being sellers would throw a huge domino into this trade deadline conversation. So I think they're definitely a team that is worth monitoring as far as selling at the deadline and potentially selling big. And then also to wrap this up here, I think John Mozeliak and Ali Marmol the conversation has to be had at this point, especially with Mozeliak. I think moving on from him, you have Chaim Bloom sitting in your front office who can take over for him. I think that makes a lot of sense there. And then you can have your choice of Alex Cora, or you could have your chance of Skip Schumacher, who ended up getting rid of his option in his contract. He's going to be free at the end of the year. He played for the Cardinals for 7 or 8 years, was their bench coach at one point, has strong ties to the organization. I think that'd be a home run hire, and that would infuse some optimism in that organization. And it would just be a step in the right direction. So I think there's a lot of conversations to be had about the Cardinals, both short and long term. And I think both of them end in huge changes. So I think that's what they need. And Drew, I mean, they got Luis Arise. No other Padres news.
And Robert is in Sheboygan also.
Source.
Look, if you are, I will say, I agree with what you're saying. I think you laid out a great plan. And I think if you are not a fan of the Cardinals' devil magic and their quick recoveries, you are not going to like this offseason very much because it's almost too easy. Like you said, I mean, they're quite bad at this moment in time, but there's a succession plan behind Mozeliak. There are 2 extremely talented managerial candidates that are going to hit the open market, or at least we think Alex Cora will be available. We know Skip Schumacher will be available. Schumacher probably the more natural fit. I think Alex Cora.
Yeah.
I wonder if you approach him like, hey, Cardinals are interested. Oh, great. Who's running things over there? Chaim Bloom. Click. Like, yeah, we'll see you later. But there is a really natural succession plan in St. Louis. There's a lot of talent, and there's a lot of ability to, sell some of that stagnating talent to help infuse things. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be dead in the dirt for very long, but I do think they are pretty bad right now.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way of putting it. And honestly, like, let's say that Chaim Bloom ends up taking over for Mozeliak here in St. Louis, and he's tasked with hiring a manager. That kind of feels like what ended up happening where Stearns was taking over the Mets and Counsell was sitting out there. I mean, obviously they have the strong ties, Counsell and Stearns and Cora and Bloom, but I think if no matter what, and Skip Schumacher is sitting out there, I think he's got to be the Cardinals' as number one choice. That just makes too much sense to me. If they end up going in a different direction and it's not Alex Cora, then I'm going to be questioning what's going on there. Speaking of questioning what's going on there, I saw Adam kind of glancing over. Was Biscuit doing something or what?
So you want to know the actual genuine truth is I have a desk that looks out through a window that also the living room juts out 4 feet probably, and also has floor to ceiling windows. So I can see from my room and my desk, my wife's desk, and sometimes Biscuit, because he likes to sit under her desk and go eat stuff. And I saw him mouth on ground, just going to town. And I'm like, I wonder if that's food or if he's just licking floor. So yes, it was 100% Biscuit. And I was trying to determine if he had something or had nothing and was just doing an impression of a dog eating something you shouldn't be eating. So I'm going to go check in on that when the podcast is over.
That seems like a good way to end the show here. So yeah, let's let you go check on Biscuit to make sure he's doing okay.
But yes, your observation was 100% correct. I was in fact looking at Biscuit out of the corner of my eye, floating up against the window going, what's that guy up to? What's his deal? So I guess we'll figure that out.
What a guy Biscuit is. We love him.
Biscuit's a king. He's been asleep all day and now he's awake, of course, at the most inopportune time. But we thank everyone for being awake at a very opportune time and joining us at 3:30 on Friday when the Baseball Insiders isn't usually happening, but was today. Although pretty good audience. I mean, hey, if you'd rather we do a Friday show than a Thursday show, hit us up in the comments, subscribe, hit that like, smash that like button. I don't know who that guy was, but let us know. Sound off. We'll see you here 3:30 all Mondays. Unless one of us has a pre-existing opportunity.
Sign us off. I might have something here.
Ooh, all right. Robert's got business. We appreciate everybody joining us. Join us again on Monday. Join the Discord if you haven't. Sign up for DraftKings with the promo code Baseball Insider if you don't have an account. And turn your notifications on for Robert Murray's Twitter account because I think we might be on the verge of something fun. Until next time.
Actually might be.
Yeah, until next time, we'll catch everybody right back here on the Baseball Insiders or in the Discord. Subscribe. Like the video. We'll see you right back here next show. Take care.